It's that time that everyone's been waiting for. How to stall for time. There's always going to be breaks or downtime in your game at some point. We've all done it. You may have forgotten Terry's name, or you can't remember what happens next and you need a quick glance at your notes, or your players made some absurd decision that no sane person would have ever been able to predict. And the answer is you need a second to gather yourself, figure out what comes next, and have it ready. The way you handle this downtime is what's important. Ordinary DMs have downtime and breaks in their game, but extraordinary DMs have the illusion that there are no downtime or breaks in their game. But the important part is how you handle it and keep your players occupied. The simplest solution is to offer your players a puzzle. Something intricate looking, something that will capture their attention for a little bit. I personally like to put an intricate looking door in front of them that is locked and they have to figure out how to open it. The reality is, it will not open until I've found what I'm looking for, and then they've done something either clever enough or entertaining enough for me to finally open it for them. They feel accomplished, I found what I needed to, it's a win-win. Puzzles are a great way to keep your team occupied, especially if they're puzzles that involve dangerous traps, or a puzzle to get past a certain area, or maybe it's something that is a clue to a riddle that they had earlier that they need to figure out. The harder one to work with is when they make a decision that no sane person could have ever predicted. For example, I one time had my players attending the funeral of a friend. Instead of mourning him, they decided to pull out their weapons and start robbing everyone that was at the funeral. Needless to say, this is not something I would have ever in my entire life imagined someone doing at a funeral. But what I decided to do is let natural consequences flow. They had an encounter with the town guard, which hurriedly beat them to a pulp, arrested them, and threw them in jail, waiting trial. I then used the intricate door method to occupy their time while I prepared a prison break encounter for them. Letting natural consequences flow for your players' actions will allow you to have the time you need to figure out what comes next. A natural reaction to something is something that most people can think of immediately. Robbing people at a funeral leads to being arrested. So as you can see, using natural consequences will move your game forward quickly and you don't have to think as hard. But given the situation, in most cases will also buy you a little bit of time to think about what comes next. Want to stall for time in between encounters? Give them a shopping trip. I've had many groups spend easily an hour to 2 hours on a single shopping trip, especially if you roleplay it and don't just tell them the prices of items. You can have them barter, haggle, and even find some unique things. It rewards them and gives you time, once again, to prepare for the next part. What happens if players do something that fundamentally changes the plot? Well, here's another example for you. I had a group of players fight the big bad guy, the BBEG as we sometimes call it in D&D, and they finished the encounter, defeated him, and originally he was going to appear dead, but then come back later stronger with a vendetta against them for it. Well, one of my players decided to make absolutely sure he was in fact dead, so they cut his head off. A bit violent, but it got the job done, and honestly, this was not the same type of high fantasy magic world that is normally in D&D. So there wasn't much opportunity for him to come back from the dead from that. He was going to be dead. No coming back. So what I did instead is I had the group that was against him congratulate them, offer them some rewards, while meanwhile he had a brother that wanted revenge for him being slain, was rallying his troops, and was the new BBEG of the campaign. You are correct in thinking that the BBEG probably didn't have a brother before. He didn't, but he does now. You can change the plot of the campaign at any moment as a DM. Make it work to your advantage. Using puzzles or shopping or even just a simple role-play encounter can give you a great way to stall for time while you think of something new or look something up. I do recommend having things written down so you can look them up quickly and not have to stall for time where you actually have to figure something out. Using these stalling methods will make it appear as though there's no downtime in your game, and your players will constantly be engaged in playing and have no idea that you needed a second to read something. In some cases, if you do need a moment to read something, you can be honest with your players, let them know, and they'll usually be understanding. Being a DM can be nerve-wracking, especially when you don't have everything all set to go for every single possibility. And things that throw you off course can get you flustered. But remain calm, use stall tactics as necessary, and move forward, and you'll do a wonderful job.